Good evening, race fans, and welcome to tonight's coverage of the Area 51 Truck Super Speedway Series here on Green White Checker TV. Very excited for the action for you tonight. We have the first round of 4 here in the playoffs, and we are in iRacing Super Speedway here tonight. Looking forward to what should be a solid 75 laps of racing, and yeah, all sorts of playoff action to keep an eye on for you here tonight, and we'll bring obviously not much of a point to bringing up those point standings, but we'll do it anyway. You see, everybody's going to be reset to 1,000 points here tonight. Pretty much, well, I guess not even in alphabetical order, but you see the stats there for some of the wins, top 5s and top 10s for these 12 drivers who will be trying to crown themselves a champion at the end of this 4-week stretch. So we are, again, very excited to bring you this action here tonight for myself, Boomer Logan, and for my buddy up in the booth, Brandon Briggs. We've got a full slate of 75 laps scheduled distance for you guys tonight here. Brandon, welcome aboard your first playoff race here. What are you most excited for getting into tonight?
Man, I'm just excited. We got to watch these guys last week battle their butts off to make sure they could lock themselves into these playoffs here tonight. And we got a great, interesting track here with iRacing Superspeedway to kick the night off. So, I'm really going to be, really focused in on how these guys approach the beginning of this race. Are they going to be aggressive, or are we going to go into fuel save mode? And then it comes always down to that treacherous turn 1 and turn 3, that bump going in there. How are those guys going to be able to handle this? With different strategies tonight, Boom.
Yeah, it's going to be a good battle, I think, for sure. We've seen a little bit of everything. We've seen long green flag rounds. We've seen plenty of calamity and cautions here at iRacing Super Speedway just this season alone. And we'll be looking to try to see if the um, previous winners from this year might make a comeback and try to capitalize on the success that they've had earlier this season. I believe it was Bud Steele won the first race here at iRacing Super Speedway, so maybe one of the guys to look to tonight to see if they can continue their good luck streak here at iRacing Super Speedway, Brandon.
Yeah, most definitely. The guy I'm really gonna keep my eye on is Justin Davis. First time running with this league this session, and kept his nose clean most of the year. Got locked himself in for the playoffs, and then just looking at timing and scoring, he had a really good practice. He was second quickest in practice, so definitely some good momentum for Justin, and hopefully he can start his playoffs on the right streak.
Yeah, good momentum for him, and as well as for Ryan Decker there in that 48 with the win last week at Talladega. And Charles Johnson was actually our first winner at iRacing Super Speedway, so him and Bud Steele are going to be looking to try and capitalize again on that success earlier this season and try to make it into very solid, very hard fought round of 4 races here. So obviously we'll do the same gambit that we've been doing all season long. We'll go to iRacing Super Speedway, then Daytona, Atlanta Motor Speedway, and we'll finish it out on May 8th at Talladega Super Speedway. And yeah, as we mentioned, 4 straight weeks of a lot of fun and action. And we're about 2 minutes into the qualifying session. Got started a little early here, so we'll try and bring up, see if we can. Well, we have the names. We'll bring them back for your playoffs here. So these are the guys obviously locked into the championship. Obviously, everyone reset to 1,000 points here. So, again, Bud Steele, Charles Johnson, those are the 2 that won here earlier this season. Jack Walls won the season opener. Ryan Decker won last week. Carl Lingle won 2 weeks ago at Atlanta. So there's quite a few wins here. Obviously, Gabe Butler getting his win there at Daytona about 3 weeks ago. So, but for the most part, it's also interesting to see the consistency. You see the numbers for the top 10s, the top 5s. A lot of these guys are in the hunt and always at the front of this pack. Obviously, Gabe Butler, probably one of the lower totals for top 5s and top 10s, but don't count him out. He's won quite a few championships here at Area 51, and he's looking for another there, Brandon.
Yeah, Gabe really started off the season just a little bit slow, and then he really started to pick it back up and got into some just unfortunate circumstances with some racing and didn't have really the finishes he wanted, But speaking of these guys, especially here at iRacing Speedway, as we see everybody is reset to it is 1,000, but you see Bud Steele. Bud Steele, we talked about it all year. How good not only Bud Steele but that team has been. That team has really executed this year in the Roswell Motorsports Camp. They execute pit road and they do it so smoothly. We've seen it where that Roswell team has even came a lap earlier before anybody else just to make sure their group stays together and they have a clean pit stop. So it's gonna be, Gabe and them guys have ran good, and have them championships before, but it's really gonna come in my eyes to these teammates. How good is just your teammate? And some guys ain't in the playoffs, so how hard is that that teammate gonna run? So having a lot of teammates like Roswell does here in this chase is gonna be very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that we've almost always preached. And I think it's just the nature of Superspeedway racing. But you got to have someone to draft with, some sort of partner, teammate, whatever you want to call it, whoever you're in a voice chat with working together. You have to have that help, and you have to have someone that's able to come down pit road and draft with you, have the same strategies, and work together truly as a team. And obviously, we've seen the Team Bootnaka Esports guys do it time and time very well, year in, year out, season in, season out. But Roswell Motorsports has absolutely stepped their game up this year. They've got quite a few wins. Obviously, Ryan Decker, Jack Walls, and Bud Steele. Bud's got 2 wins that you mentioned on the season, so a lot of wins coming out of that Roswell Motorsports camp, and quite a few top fives and top tens as well for those guys. So look to see them working together, and some of the other groups that we have here. Obviously, only one car in the playoffs, but Carl Lingel's got his teammate for Blind Squirrel Racing here in Ambrose Kniebel. So there's plenty of names in this who you can't count out, and obviously all the TW Motorsports guys between Bob Fitzgerald, Charles Johnson, and Dean Wilkinson are going to make the playoff grid. So it's going to be a really good team battle as we are ready to pull up your qualifying grid here. And it's going to be the number 9 of Charles Johnson with the pole for tonight's activities. Gabe Butler will be to his outside in that number 88 Chevrolet. Dean Wilkinson in the Ford inside of row number 2. Everett Lane right behind his teammate there in the 24. He's going to start outside of row number 2. Tom Dixon's going to round out the top 5 starting spots for tonight. And we have last week's winner outside of row number 3. That's Ryan Decker. Eric Laurie of Team Bootnaka Esports, he's going to be the inside of Jack Walls on the outside of row number 4. Former winner this season, Jack. Justin Davis locked into the playoffs as well. He is inside of row number 5 with Carl Lingle, another playoff driver, in the top 10 starting positions here tonight. Nick Wing is going to start 11th for tonight. Bob Fitzgerald to his outside, completing row number 6. And the next page of the grid, and the last page of the grid, James Moen for Team Extreme, first driver not to take a qualifying time for tonight. He's going to start 13th with Jim Brooks on outside of row number 7. Ambrose Kniebel and Bud Steele are going to start side-by-side shotgun on the field, and we are just about ready to kick off tonight's festivities.
Yeah, I noticed as we talked about a couple of those teammates we already seen, we're used to these guys taking, qualifying times tonight. They're not, I think that's telling us right off the bat, boom, some of these guys are playing a long game strategy already before we even drop the green flag.
Yeah, there's only a handful of drivers that did not take a time there towards the back of the field, but a couple of them obviously are some of those Roswell Motorsports entries. You see the 6, the Navy Ford Mustang of Bud Steele, our winningest driver in the regular season. See what he can do to capitalize on what has been a really good season for him. But we're going to roll off here. Charles Johnson will be that control car on this initial start here as they pull off behind the iRacing Pace truck, and these half-ton trucks are going to be ready to take to the high banks again of iRacing Superspeedway. Unique for sure, as we've mentioned before, this is a track that only exists in the virtual world, and Brandon has already mentioned how much of an elevation change there really is in coming in and out of turns 1, 2, 3, and 4, but coming on to the front stretch and the back stretch, you'll see how much of an elevation change it is for these drivers, and you see that bump there at speed. It is very daunting, and definitely something that they're going to have to manage here tonight, Brandon.
Yeah, and it's not just that there's a bump, it's where the bumps are. You're hitting this bump, and then you're telling your steering wheel, "Hey, we gotta hook a left here at the same time," and then you got somebody behind you maybe pushing you. There's so many things that factor into just that little it's even a bump or a divot just where the flatness of it really kicks into that really, really, really steep banking, and a lot of times here, that's where we see havoc start to begin, so these guys are really gonna have to be patient with these trucks and understand when we're over 200 miles an hour, it doesn't take much.
Definitely. It's almost like you have to anticipate before you have to turn, you have to turn the steering wheel in and then you hit the bump and then it settles in. But it's a unique feeling. Obviously, for those of you who aren't familiar with iRacing, it's a very different racetrack to race at and very unique. And we're excited to have it here on the schedule as we are about to go green. You see the white lines. Once the drivers get into that restart box, they're going to be good to go. Green flag is out on the speedway for the first race of the playoffs here in 2025.
Yeah, great start here. We see everybody just understanding, hey, let's just tuck in. Nobody make any crazy Jurassic moves at these big super speedway tracks. It really takes these trucks about 3/4 to a lap to really, really get these trucks up and humming. As you can see that outside lane with the 48 kind of fizzle there. That's just these trucks just trying to get up to speed as big almost 3 mile track.
2x2, the outside lane didn't get going as well, but they've got better connection now as they come down the back straightaway in a huge head of steam for the 88 and the 24. And those are all four Team Bootnaka Esports drivers lined up nose to tail, working together already early on in this one. TW Motorsports teammates, the 9 and the 55, their lead from first and third on the grid. And we'll see as we come around to the start finish line, it looks like the 9 of Charles Johnson is going to get that first lap led for tonight. And we pull up your ticker or your tower, whatever you want to call it there, your live standings, and you can see all the names in green. Those are the drivers that are competing for the playoffs and for the championship here at the end of this 4-week stretch. So those names are the ones we'll be keeping an eye on the most and see if any of those names not highlighted have a chance to maybe steal a win from some of these playoff drivers.
Yeah, speaking of still in a win, Everett Lane, he's hot. He won in Sunday's race, so he's got definitely some momentum. Not in the playoffs, unfortunately, here due to missing a couple races, but he does have teammates in there. So if you're Gabe or Eric or even Justin, knowing that a guy like that has momentum, that's somebody that you want to see behind you pushing you.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, they're continuing to work to try and control this race. There is now the 88 is going to get ahead of the 9, and the 3 Team Bootnaka drivers still stand to that outside line, trying to do what they can to control this one early on. There's no bonus points for almost anything anymore. No bonus points for pole, no bonus points for laps led, but it still is advantageous to be up at the front and know how to. How the car is going to handle in clean air and know how to time runs and where to push and when not to push, and the art of trying to push as much as you possibly can without getting that motor too hot and peeking a nose to get some cool air into the ductwork of these trucks to try and cool that motor off. So being up at the front is advantageous just from a standpoint of experience. And some of these guys, especially the boot knocker guys, are really learning early on how this outside lane is going to work and where they can try and make runs and generate runs and make passes.
Yeah, and like you said, you don't get a bonus point, but in the league, one of the greatest things I think it's better than a bonus point is being up front. Yeah, you get to control your lane, but two, you're ahead of all the mess when you come to pit road. We talk about it so much, and teammates do make a big point in racing here at these super speedways. But being up front and be able to control when you come to pit road or not being in the back, we talk about this all the time. When you're in the back, that's It's about a second, and when you add that up over pit road, it can add up to over 3, 4 seconds if you're the last car entering pit road and you have a mistake. So, being up front, in my eyes, having that better pit entrance is more valuable than a bonus point.
Yeah, that track position can really help, especially if you make a mistake or two getting into or off of pit road and then on pit road and obviously in your pit stall. So there's plenty of opportunities for mistakes there, and we've preached so often that that execution is so important, but it really makes a huge difference as far as the track position. You can lose a second on pit road much easier than you can lose a second on the track, especially in the draft. And you can see back to 16th place James Moen. He's about 1.5 seconds off of the lead, and we've always talked about that 1 second gap. If you do not have a car ahead of you that is closer than 1 second, you are more than likely going to be losing the draft ahead of you, and that makes for a very, very long night and not a lot of fun to have to ride around and hope for something like a caution to come out.
Yeah, and that's a bummer. I've been in that seat before, and it's the seat you don't want to be in. You're just sitting out there, really just riding by yourself. And I keep bringing him up, and thankfully he hasn't wrote me and said, "Hey, man, I'm not an example all the time." But Justin Davis, brand new to the league, come in. We had an interview with him, and guys reached out and said, "Hey, if you need some help, come over here if you need some of that." And it really changed this whole season because when you're by yourself, when like you said, coming to pit road, that can really ruin your whole race, especially at the tracks that we run. So just him reaching out and the great teams that we have and guys just allowing him to come in and race with them guys. I mean, I don't know what would have happened, but I've ran by myself before, and I've missed the playoffs, and he's out here with these trucks, and he got in that team and he made the playoffs. So you can just tell, just having some good guys around you can change the whole outcome of a season for you.
Yeah, entirely. It's such a big deal to have good help and all the strategy that goes along with that. So, ooh, a little bit of a moment there for the 411. He gets loose. He saves it for now, and I think we're going to stay green, and it's going to jumble up the back of the pack here, but that was a big moment as Tom Dixon got loose through the center of 3 and 4, and thankfully able to hold on to it and hold on to the draft. That was a bit of a moment there.
Yeah, definitely a good will in there by the 411 and everybody around him. Hats off to everybody. When you hit that apron, it really jacks your truck up, and you really don't have much control of it. So we seen when he hit that apron, he shot right back on the track. That's not by the 411's design. You're very, very, very uneven. One's on a flat surface, one's on about a 37-degree banking surface, and it just shoots you right back up. So hats off to the 411 for saving that, because it could have really got ugly quick.
Absolutely, and it actually looks like James Moen may have been a casualty from that incident, so we're going to take a quick replay and try to understand exactly what happened here. But you see him further back in the field. We'll play this from here, and then we'll watch it and try to see if we can understand. Oh, interesting, just a retirement for the 7 of James Moen, so he's going to come to a stop here and jump to the pits. So not entirely sure what happened for him, but unfortunate to have to end tonight's race early, so hopefully everything is okay for him there, and he will, I'm assuming, probably be out for the race. So that is going to give us 15 trucks competing for the first win again of the playoffs here. Gabe Butler is controlling this race pretty well. Him and Charles Johnson and all the teammates around them are really trying to determine who's going to get that top spot. Obviously, we saw some great moves from the 9 and the 88, using that outside lane to try and move forward and take over that lead. But right now, it's the Bootknocker teammates, the 88 and the 24, at the head of this pack. Then you've got TW Motorsports, Johnson and Wilkinson, followed by more Bootknockers, Laurie and Davis. And that is your top 6 at the moment. Carl Lingle there in 7th place. Ryan Decker, last week's winner, again in 8th. Jim Brooks in the 9th spot, up 5 positions. Our hard charger at the moment, Jack Walls, first race of the season winner. In the top 10, Nick Wing, Ambrose Kniebel, Bud Steele, Tom Dixon, and Bob Fitzgerald, all still out on the speedway, as we're probably a little under halfway or so to the first set of pit stops here, and so far pretty quiet. All pretty much settled out to single file action here.
Yeah, we got the TW Motorsports guys. They're right there in a boot knock a sandwich. So as you can see, a lot of guys starting to single file out. I think that we talking about what you just talked about. Boom, pit stops not too far away. That or they said, all right, we already had one hiccup before our first pit stop. Maybe maybe we relax a little bit, fellas, as we see a little bit of double file racing back there in the back. But what do you think, Boom? Maybe 20 laps on these or?
Yeah, I think that's what we've been seeing for the most part. I know the first race I think was a little bit less, but yeah, about 20 laps or so. Obviously, the biggest track that we go to, it's about 4/10 of a mile longer than Talladega, and the speeds are absolutely incredible. I mean, we'll pull up the miles per hour, the dashboard, if you will, for Gabe Butler, and you can see coming out of turns 3 and 4, he's going about 205 miles an hour, and down the front straightaway continues to build that speed and momentum up to probably 215 miles an hour or so as they enter turns 1 and 3, and it is absolutely a very fast racetrack and a lot of throttle, a lot of burn a lot of fuel with the extra length in the track here tonight.
Yeah, and that's one thing I was watching as you know, you brought that up. I was shocked to actually see the 88 out there leading. I was kind of thinking maybe the 24 would have maybe took over with not being in the playoffs, just using that much strategy into it. Just by maybe, just letting the 88, save a little bit and have him do the pushing. But Gabe's not worried at all. He knows when to be aggressive and when to stay up front. As we already got some guys
Oh,
breaking off to come down pit road here.
earlier than expected, but there we go. The single file action leads to some pit stops here. Charles Johnson, Bob Fitzgerald, Dean Wilkinson coming on down pit road all together here on lap number 13. Gabe Butler's going to stay out on the speedway with the rest of the pack in tow.
Yeah, that was, if they do get 20 laps like you're talking about, Boom, we normally have the three pit stops or so. So this could have been that final stop, as they always got the late one. So I wonder maybe if that was TW's move or maybe just the tank's going a little bit quicker tonight.
Yeah, I know they've always been trying to do what they can to play around with it, and you see there's the answer for the boot knocker guys and the rest of the field, so they're all coming in now this time. But yeah, Gabe Butler, Everett Lane, Eric Laurie, everybody else on pit road. It's a busy pit road, and look at that. What an organized a bunch of trucks as they come down pit road. That is an incredible pit stop for all these drivers, and we'll see. I don't think there's any penalties, and that is something to say for having so many trucks come down pit road at the same time. You see Charles Johnson, Dean Wilkinson, Bob Fitzgerald here. They are lined up nose to tail, getting ready to get back up to speed, and we'll pay attention to where they come out to your leaders as Gabe Butler is likely going to lead the charge off of pit road ahead of Everett Lane, and I think almost everybody took fuel only. I see about 8 to 9 second pit stops for almost everybody. Which means that there's probably no one taking any tires whatsoever. Ryan Decker had a 10-second pit stop, which is possible to maybe have some right side tires about 2 seconds longer than anybody else. And then we do have one penalty. Ambrose Kniebel is still stuck on pit road, serving, I believe, either a speeding or a pit road entry penalty. But nonetheless, Gabe Butler is going to continue to hold on to that lead. And as we see the 9, the 55, and the 08, they're going to start picking off some of those drivers at the back and make their way through the field to try to get back up to the lead. And we'll see how far they can climb. Obviously, not a ton of organization in most of the trucks ahead of them, so that should help them climb at least a few more spots.
Yeah, definitely a good pit stop by that second group. As we still see the 9 and the 55 trying to make their way back through. It's so underrated what they just did. When you come to iRacing pit road, as we've talked about before, you enter pit road, but the speed limit cone is actually not for about another 100 yards past the entrance. So for all them guys to not one person in front of them slow up too soon or anything like that, and just execute that, no touching, no wrecking, anything, that was really well done. Hats off to these drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably the only track that I can think of that'd be even close to it is Indianapolis, and Indy's probably one of the most treacherous pit roads of any racetrack in the world. It's deceivingly wide, but because you have an opportunity to go, 500 or 600 or more feet before you get to that yellow cone and that line that starts the jurisdiction for pit road speeds, it is absolutely something to take advantage of, and it can bite you though, because you can definitely, like I said, it's deceivingly narrow, even though it seems like it is really wide. It's pretty easy to get in there, get sideways, and then wad up a bunch of cars. But these guys did a really great job, as you mentioned, Brandon.
Yeah, they did one heck of a job, and we're starting to see now that the 55, they're really making their way back up there. They've made it almost all the way to the front. So, in my eyes for the 9 and those guys that pitted early, I'm still staying stick with that same plan. We got really great drivers, but just super speedway racing, and the longer the race goes on, and for them guys to keep doing that in them big groups, it's the odds are just low. So I think still that strategy by that first group is still a good strategy.
Yeah, and there's going to be quite a few pit stops if everyone's going about 12 to 13 laps. So with a 75 lap run, that's, I think, at least 5 pit stops. So that's going to be quite a few to have to execute on, and it adds a challenge, and who knows, it could bode well for some drivers, depending on how maybe some calamity falls if we have some pit stops that are less well executed than the first there. But that first set of pit stops from everybody, obviously Ambrose Knievel with the penalty, but besides that, I mean, a very great set of green flag pit stops here, and we continue to roll on through lap number 18. So with that green flag action, I think it's about time that we run one of our first commercials of tonight, and you will hear first from our sponsor, Scentsy, your fragrance destination.
At Scentsy, we love fragrance, how it makes us feel, how it connects us to our deepest memories, how sharing those memories connects us with each other.
And as it turns out, there's a lot of people who feel the same way and share Scentsy's core values of simplicity, authenticity, and generosity. Our beautiful campus in Meridian, Idaho welcomes employees, consultants, and the community year-round.
That's why we've grown from selling just warmers and wax to selling a complete line of products, so you can fill your life with fragrance no matter where your day takes you.
Whether it's fun partnerships with beloved brands, innovative, high-performing cleaning products, laundry care that smells as good as it works, or personal care products to create your signature scent, Scentsy products are made to share.
Maybe that's why our culture has always felt like family. We call it Scentsy Spirit. It's a feeling of love, acceptance, generosity, and community that we share freely with everyone we meet. And we welcome you to experience it yourself. Like it? Buy the product. Love it? Host a get-together with your friends. Want more? Start your own Scentsy business. You can earn amazing trips around the world and rewards. You can work your business whenever and wherever you want, giving you more time for the things and people that matter most. Ask your Scentsy consultant for more info.
Again, you can fill your life with fragrance with Scentsy. Appreciate them being on board as a sponsor for the broadcast here at Green White Checker TV and at Area 51. Big shout out to Ryan Decker in that number 48 for him and his spouse Caitlin for bringing them on board. And obviously you see the QR code back in the in the banner or whatever you want to call it for the commercial there, and that goes to helping out Caitlin's account at Scentsy. So by all means, please, if you want to make sure you support her as you go to make your purchases through Scentsy, and we'll get a good shot there of the number 48 Chevrolet, again sponsored by Scentsy and all of their independent consultants. And a little bit of damage there right before the left rear tire on that number 48, but otherwise looking pretty solid, pretty fresh for that Chevy Silverado. And we are working on lap number 21. Gabe Butler also in a Chevrolet. He leads the field still with his teammate Everett Lane and Eric Laurie nose to tail, but there's some guy named Bud Steele there who's made his way up into... Ooh, Bob Fitzgerald has wrecked incredibly. He's going to spin down into pit lane, and he is unfortunately going to have to maybe repair some damage. At least he's on pit road early, but the truck looks okay. We'll see if he can maybe get back out on track and not lose too much time, but that was a very wild entrance of pit lane, and we'll see if we can try and replay and watch that again here as you see him from the outside lane trying to get down to the bottom. And you see just not enough space there off the nose of the 28 of Nick Wing, and goes for a wild ride, almost flips over, comes back down, and spends a lot of time on his side there and spins quite violently into the inside wall. Not as much contact as I was expecting there, at least cosmetically, Brandon.
No, but hey, Bob, what a way to shout out your sponsor by taking liftoff at iRacing Superspeedway. No, but I mean, this is what we talked about. And this is no knock to Bud and Nick Wing is in no fault here. When you're making that move, you got to make the move. You can't. We've heard the drivers talk about it. When you make your moves, you got to be aggressive because that gap feels so quick, and especially in. I think what we didn't really get a good view. There's still a little bit of bump as you come off forward, and I think he's hitting that bump as he comes down in the 28 stairs. So, luckily, like you said, he spun right into pit road. So if you need to get that fixed, get it fixed, and hopefully can catch this pack as they're coming around now to take lap 24. But unfortunate circumstances, but we stay green.
Yeah, green so far. One incident, really two incidents so far, but not enough to throw the yellow. And Bob Fitzgerald's going to get back out on track, and he will be probably a lap down or two, I think, by the time the field picks him back up. And only 11.77 seconds on the pit stop there, so potentially fuel or maybe 2 tires only. Obviously, 4 tires would be closer to 14 or 15 seconds, so able to get back up and away. And we'll go see. So leaders are entering 3 right now, and Bob Fitzgerald's actually coming back down pit road for additional service, as we're probably getting pretty close to the rest of the field coming back down for their second set of pit stops. Remember, we went 12 and 13 laps for the 2 groups that pit last, so we're right on that window, and they're trying to stretch a few more laps this run. Again, you mentioned it earlier, Brandon. Gabe Butler trying to be out front and control the race. Interesting to see that, when you'd expect maybe to have the 24 of Everett Lane, who's not in the playoffs, try to be that guinea pig. And if he runs out of fuel, there's no harm, no foul. But Gabe Butler is going to continue to lead this race with some of his teammates behind him.
Yeah, and I mean, it just comes back to the topic we just talked about a second ago. Gabe has talked about it in his wins. You got to be aggressive, and there's no other spot really you want to be when you're racing and then in first. Sometimes at super speedways, that's normally the guy to get hung out. But when you got both of your teammates behind you, I mean, there's really no better place to be. And as we've seen, these guys are going to go going to pit together. And so no harm. But yeah, like I was completely there with you. I was certainly the 24 was going to maybe get out there. But we've seen with the short fuel tanks that they're just going to come in together and just stay out front and try to stay away from all the havoc that they can.
Yeah, and it obviously we've had a couple incidents that didn't throw yellows, but I mean still 2 incidents within the first 20 laps or so. Definitely some potential for calamity, and with a field that's so saturated with playoff drivers, it's definitely nerve-wracking to see those things happen. And obviously for Bob Fitzgerald, a bit of a hole for him to have to climb out of here now, as we see most of the field coming down pit road. Oh, a big moment for Charles Johnson as he comes down and hits the inside wall, spinning into the barriers he goes, and that's going to be a ton of damage for that 9 Chevrolet, and we'll see if he has to take a fast repair for that as they get woed up on pit road.
Yeah, also big hit for the 9, but the 411, he had to miss and completely veer back onto the racetrack. He is going to be the biggest person that's going to hurt from this, and he had no contact at all. So, man, very big hit that's going to cost a couple guys here.
Absolutely, and the ones who are probably least affected by it here is this group who decided not to pit this time by. So some of the Roswell Motorsports entries and Carl Lingle for Blind Squirrel Racing, they are staying out on the field and trying to stretch one more lap here as they come down pit road this time. We'll see how that execution is. You see how much farther the yellow line for pit road speed doesn't start until there, and it is very late, very aggressive compared to where the pit entry is, and it looks like everybody got down onto pit road okay this time.
Yeah, this is, what we were talking about with I was so shocked not to see these guys come in their groups again, the pit early and stay in their small groups to avoid that chaos. It's so hard to come down to this. This pit road really gets narrow as you're going over 200 miles an hour. You got to come down off the banking onto that flat surface. It's going to bounce. It's going to get slick. You got to get slowed up. There's so many keys to this pit road entrance here at iRacing Superspeedways that the little groups, but this group right here, it looks like they're got a little bit of space. They got maybe 2 cars there behind them that might be able to catch them.
Yeah, there is about a 2-second gap or so between the 071 back to the 55, but this first group, or the second group, that pit is coming off of pit road onto the back stretch, and they're pretty organized, but we're going to see in a moment here the 88, the 071, the 24, they have a pretty good head of steam. They're already up to 5th place, and I think they're going to probably catch a few more unless our leaders can get back up to speed a little bit faster as they come down the front stretch here, but that should put, I think, the top 11 into the first pack here. And there's a big run there for the 24, the 88, 071. They're going to take it to the outside, and they're going to go right around back up to the lead.
That's normally the benefit we see there of the pitting a lap early that I think the 9 and those guys were expecting the first time that they did it, was you get that lap where you get up to speed a lot quicker than they do, and this time it's beneficial there for the 24 and the 88 is I don't know if that's how they came out, or they were listening to the broadcast, or maybe they're starting to think maybe a little bit about fuel save mode as we see the 24 go to the point and the 88 to the second.
Yeah, a lot of times, and we've talked to them about this before in the past, a lot of times whoever comes out in the front is the one who's going to get pushed to the lead. So that's typically the MO for those drivers. And obviously Everett Lane executing a little bit better on pit road than the 88 and gets ahead of his teammate there. Actually had about a second and a half, 1.38 seconds faster pit stop for Everett Lane, and that's really the big difference there, his virtual pit crew getting it done. And that's something I don't think we explain too often here with the pit stops. Is obviously there's a set amount of time that it takes to put fuel in the car. How much fuel? Okay, now 2 tires, maybe 4. Every little bit of that you add, more service that gets added, taking a windshield tear off, adds time, but it's also a random number within, a certain range. So that is something that kind of adds the real racing aspect of it. And, unfortunately, it's not performance-based, so it's all just luck of the draw, and I think that was really the big difference with Everett Lane, his virtual pit crew, getting it done there on that second stop, getting ahead of Gabe Butler, and he is in control of this race as the top 11, again, as we stated, have found their way into this lead pack. Tom Dixon does have a drafting partner on the same lap as him, though. That's Charles Johnson, so they were both involved, obviously, in the pit road entry incident, the 9 spinning and the 411 having to check up quite a bit because of it and not go down pit road. So they are at least together, which should help minimize the difference in speed. And we'll try and check this next lap, see if we can see what the difference between Tom Dixon and Charles Johnson is here. Not quite sure if I have updated numbers because it says they're a little slower, but we'll check next time by and try to understand the difference in speed here. So they are 12th and 13th, and they are about 30 seconds behind our leaders. Then Ambrose Kniebel is currently by himself. He is 1 lap down, will probably be 2 by the time our leaders get to him. And then Bob Fitzgerald is 2 laps down, but he is at the back of the lead pack, which does help quite a bit.
Yeah, and what is really, really painful to see is, I'm going to ask you a question now, Boom. You put yourself in the 55. Your 2 teammates haven't had the success they've wanted to so far in this race, and now you're up in the mix with everybody, and you have no teammates around you. So how do you start to approach this as you know, you sit up there as maybe a lone man guy?
Yeah, there's definitely moves you can make that are more of a smarter play, or obviously right now he's still kind of in a boot knocker sandwich with just Justin Davis behind him and the rest of the guys in front of him. So yeah, he's obviously going to not have a lot of help, especially not from the 4 cars that are 3 ahead of him, 1 behind him. But that 55 still has some opportunities there, and he has probably some friends behind him that he could probably use to leverage. I wouldn't be surprised if the Roswell Motorsports guys drop out of line at some point, especially later on in the race. But the 55 would be in a really great position to be in that outside line, or to jump up and try to be the first one in that outside line. So you just kind of have to maybe be a little more conservative. You know that 10 is not going to go with you behind you. So if you step out of line, that is something that's going to probably shoot you to the back. But if you do see a run forming on the outside, maybe there's an opportunity for you to find some new friends and get back up to the front of this pack. And obviously still sitting in 4th with a good opportunity so far, as we're a couple laps away from the halfway point here.
Yeah, and we're you hit on it really great. I hope you got some friends, and this is where the regular season really pays off, and maybe taking that chance where you said, you know what, I'm okay with second. I want to win, but let me just push this guy, because this is where it comes back, when in my eyes of what I always try to focus is, help anybody I can, because maybe when I need it, it will help me, and it paid off, with my first win in these trucks. Matt Wagner gave me a great push, and the 55 this year gave the 11 a great push to get him a win. So Matt not in this race, but just showing, when you help some guys, it comes full circle.
Yeah, full circle indeed, as we make circles around this fictitious raceway. Lap number 35 that we're working on now. Everett Lane still your leader. Gabe Butler, Eric Laurie, Dean Wilkinson, Justin Davis, that top 5. That's the way they came out after the last green flag pit cycle. Ryan Decker, Nick Wing, Bud Steele, Jack Walls, and Jim Brooks, your top 10. Carl Lingle, throw him in the mix here in this lead pack, and a couple other stragglers further on back. So we are, again, just about halfway. We probably have at least 2, if not 3 more pit stops to go. And for the most part, it's been pretty quiet. We've lost a couple for some incidents on pit road. We've lost a few for pit road speeding penalties, but to still have 13 on the lead lap, and at least to the top 11 in this lead pack here, that helps. And now we've got a little bit better numbers for you. So we looked at Everett Lane, his last lap, a 50.86, and Tom Dixon and Charles Johnson ran a 51.65, so that's almost 0.8 of a second slower for them, but it's not as bad as if they would have been by themselves. So helpful for the 411 and the 9 to kind of minimize that bleeding and that damage, and when they finally get around to that pit cycle, they'll probably be closer to being about a lap down, and then would be able to probably join that pack, and that makes life a little easier when you can rejoin that wherever you are, whether you're 2 laps, 3 laps, 4 laps, or whatever down at that point.
Yeah, and we've seen it where 3 cars can, you can make up a little bit of speed, but two trucks definitely not going to get it done, especially when this lead pack is staying nose to tail, and nobody out trying to really force the issue. So these guys are really just out there getting it. As you can see, the space, the 55 can stay wide open for most of the track because of just the gap. So tough break for them, but as you can see them off in the distance, these guys are going to catch them and have a little race of their own for that lucky dog spot, because you never know when the caution's going to come out.
Yeah, indeed, and obviously with Amherst Kniebel being further behind them, has he been caught by this lead pack? No, he hasn't. He's actually in the pack with the 9 and the 411, so they're actually, he's actually a lap down to the 2 drivers ahead of him, but at least has a pack, and if he can get up there and push a little more, they may actually have a chance to be even more competitive. Actually, looking at the last lap time, they were a 50.91 to the leaders' 50.59, so only about 0.3 of a second difference there, and that might be enough for them to hold off, but they'll have to stay consistent with that pack about 10 seconds ahead of our leaders to try and continue to stay ahead and not have to go a lap down, which obviously makes a lot more things, a lot more difficult, but lap 38, we are at the halfway point of 75 laps. Again, that's the scheduled distance, up to 3 green-white checkered opportunities here on Green-White Checker TV, and looming pit stops here in probably a couple laps.
Yeah, you made a really good point with those two guys. You know, if they can stay out there, I was thinking of catching this pack, but you made a very good point. If they can stay out there and keep a little bit of distance with pit stops right around the corner, one, it's going to make their pit stops a lot more smoother because they're by themselves. But not only that, there could be chaos back here, and then they wouldn't even have to worry about the lucky dog, and then they still can come in and pit and top off with the rest of these guys and be safe. So gonna be very interesting to see how things play out with I would assume pit stops right around the corner.
Yeah, and they're only about 3 to 4 tenths of a lap slower now that they have 3 trucks in that little pack, and obviously again that helps. I think for the most part they probably won't be caught before the pit cycle, but I think the best thing is they know that they're going to be ahead of some of those drivers. We see a couple more come down pit road, and led by the 24 of Everett Lane, there is the yellow cone white line for pit road entry and pit road speed. Gabe Butler, Everett Lane, Eric Laurie. Dean Wilkinson is going to tag on to the Team Bootknocker guys for now. Justin Davis is coming in. So that was your entire top 5. Ryan Decker from 6th is going to be promoted to the lead, and he's going to have the 28, the 6, the 83, and the 51 behind him as his teammates, as well as Carl Lingle here in this lead pack, and we'll see if they answer the call this next lap here.
Yeah, very close call there, but a smart move there by the 08, just holding his spot, let them go around you. Don't try to make any sudden move, so definitely a good move there. But you hit the nail. You've been on it tonight, Boom. You were perfect about Dean. He was right there in that sandwich, and it panned out for him. He got, he had the one boot knocker behind him, the others in front of him. He seen them coming. Hey, I'll just go with you guys and fill in and keep a low car pack, and I believe they're going to be all together as they come out of pit road as the 48 and the 28 push it one extra lap.
Yeah, they're going to go another lap beyond, and that should help them for their fuel mileage. I think they're still going to have to pit 2 more times. I don't see them being able to stretch this final 34-lap run, and I don't think we've seen anybody go as far as 17 laps. It's going to be probably too much, so I think after this pit stop there's going to be at least 2 more, and it helps to stretch it out as much as you can. I'm surprised that they didn't stretch it further on that first run, but it also makes sense because you do have to burn some fuel on the pace laps, so that first pit cycle typically comes a little quicker than the rest, and we see all the Team Roswell Motorsports drivers coming down pit road well and organized together, led by the 48 of Ryan Decker, and we'll see if them staying out an extra lap, actually 2 laps actually, is going to help them as we'll pan to Gabe Butler. So now we've got Gabe Butler, Everett Lane, and Dean Wilkinson here in this pack. Eric Laurie is about 5 seconds behind them, and he does have Justin Davis with him, but these 3 have kind of broken away from that rest of that pack. Charles Johnson and Tom Dixon we didn't highlight, but they came down on lap 39, same lap as this group here on the screen, and you'll see Ryan Decker coming out of pit road. He's going to have the lap car of Ambrose Kniebel ahead of him, but all his teammates, again for Roswell Motorsports, lined up behind him, coming off of pit road. Working on lap number 42, and so they're entering turns 1 and 2. You see the 9 and the 411 go around as lap cars. Gabe Butler, the 24 and the 55 are entering 1 now, and they should have a really solid opportunity to get ahead of this pack here as this trio comes off of turn number 2 down the back straightaway, and it's going to see a lot of cars getting up to speed that they're going to try and pass as quickly as possible.
Yeah, they are definitely moving right along here. I think they're going to just blow by these guys as they go right here, as they go right into the turn. Ooh, a little bit of bobble. That's that bump. Perfect shot of it right there as we see how fast these guys are moving and how quick that bump and how much of a jolt it really gets your truck. Is these guys, the second group is going to be okay. I believe they're going to stay right here with them. They got to stay nose to tail. They can't be messing around right here because these guys we know in that front pack are really, really good at this. Even though that's not the teammate in the third truck, very, very experienced drivers up there. As hopefully we're going to, as we see it now, the the ticker is starting to head the other way for the 48 and the 83.
Yeah, and obviously that was Ambrose Canelo that kind of jumped out of the line there. So, no real harm, no foul. But those 4 Roswell Motorsports drivers really need to make sure that they can keep up with these 3 here, and they're going to do just that. So that's going to be 7 now that are in the top, or at least the first pack. We're going to go back about 7 seconds to find Eric Laurie and Justin Davis, who are working together. Once it all settles out, we'll get you some lap times. It looks like they're about 8 to 9 tenths of a second slower with the 2 trucks here. Bud Steele further on back's coming. He actually came down pit road here at lap 42, so potentially an unscheduled pit stop, or maybe an error in the pit commands the first time, but that's going to put Bud Steele a little bit further back than the rest of the pack, having to pit an extra time here. And Charles Johnson and Tom Dixon should they'll probably be gone by the time the 6 gets up to speed, so he's going to be lonely for just a minute here. As you'll see, he's going to actually get caught by this lead pack, and he will now be that car battling for the lucky dog. And it's also interesting to see Charles Johnson, the 9 and the 411, you see at the bottom of the screen coming down the front straightaway, they've continued to stay ahead of our leaders. Not for super long, but they had enough of a good pit stop there and pit stop cycle for them to at least stay ahead of them for now. And unfortunately, we see Bud Steele actually coming down pit road again for, I'm assuming, another unscheduled pit stop, and that's going to be just more trouble for that 6 here tonight, and unfortunate for his chances in this first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, we talked about it at the beginning of the broadcast, how crucial this pit road is. And speaking of pit road, I went back and looked. The 071 overshot his pit box. That's what cost him a little bit of extra time there. So you got to nail all phases of racing when it comes to super speedway racing, especially with the group of guys we run with. Everybody's really good at it. So one mistake can really hurt you. And what's iRacing Speedway is just so big, and it gets to this where sometimes it's kind of a follow the leader type race, and that doesn't cause the havoc that you need. So when you make those little, maybe 5-second mistakes, it can really turn into a really, really big problem.
Yeah, indeed. And that time is just equating to track position is so critical. As we see the 411 and the 9 finally coming around to going 1 lap down. They're going to be in the outside lane here and at least able to join our leaders for the moment. So that's going to put Charles Johnson and Tom Dixon here battling for the lucky dog in this pack. Bud Steele is still only 1 lap down, but obviously quite a bit behind of our leaders there. He's about 40 seconds actually behind the pack, so that means he's about 10 seconds ahead of the pack and probably going 2 laps down maybe soon. He does have Carl Lingle coming up to him, and these guys should be able to get together and latch on and try to, again, minimize that damage. It helps so much more to have 2 cars than it does to have, just to be by yourself, but still not enough to hold their ground. You usually typically need at least 3 very coordinated trucks, or at least 4 or more trucks to really have the same speed as that rest of that pack. So jumping back, you'll see Gabe Butler coming around turns 3 and 4. He's taken back over at the leader here, so he is ahead of his teammate Everett Lane, and that puts Dean Wilkinson behind him, Ryan Decker, Jack Walls, Nicholas Wing, and Jim Brooks. Again, your top 7 that are in the battle for the lead pack here. You got a couple lap cars, the 9 and the 411, trying to earn their lap back the hard way if a caution were to come out and get ahead of the leader and steal a lap back that way. But for now, the 88 is just ahead of them. They're all lap cars working in that outside lane.
Yeah, that was the 9 being up there. That is what the 55 wanted to see. That's another teammate of his, and he knows that the 9's going to want to run up front where he is, because he's going to run right there, just in case the caution does come out, and he'll just go ahead and get his lap back the old-fashioned way. But not only that, but the 9 being back with this pack will, even if he doesn't get his lap back, as we see just a little bit of hiccup there, he's going to be there to help the 55 in the end, and that can put a big big wrench into some of these other guys' plans.
And we see there Bud Steele joins this pack. His teammate Jack Walls is going to jump up and make sure he gets into that draft and gets back down. And we are pretty much single file here down the back straightaway. We've got another straggler that should be Carl Lingle. And that, I think, should put almost everybody here in this pack. Gabe Butler, Everett Lane back to Jim Brooks, Eric Laurie, and Justin Davis are still about 15 seconds off of the lead. And then you see Charles Johnson, Tom Dixon in this pack, Ambrose Kniebel, Bud Steele, Carl Lingle, and Bob Fitzgerald is the only one that is a lone driver right now. So he's 2 laps down, and you can see the pack looming behind him. So in danger of going 3 laps down for this playoff driver here. But the pack still rolls on, and we are at the 2:3 mark. Next lap, we're going to start counting up, or we're going to go from counting up, and we're going to start counting down, as we will be 25 to go at the stripe.
Yeah, with this pack all coming together, boom. It's still the playoffs. Even though you're a lap down or you're battling with somebody else, every position matters. So I don't think we're going to see as many as these lap guys maybe just sit around and ride around and let these guys, the leaders, because they know that, hey, if I can gain 2 points here, that's 2 positions. I mean, we started all on the same page, so if you one position can mean a bunch. So I think, as you said, if we start to take down these laps with 25, 24 to go, these guys, it's maybe going to start to pick up with the pace a little bit.
Yeah, and it's with a shorter field, only 16 trucks. There's only 4 drivers not in the playoffs, so obviously somebody's going to have to finish at the back of the field in the playoffs there, and that makes a big difference. I mean, honestly, it makes it very difficult to be in a good position and try to earn some points back. Typically, with a little bit larger field and less drivers in the playoffs, then you'd have opportunities for some guys to have good nights and bad nights, or you could have a really good night and maybe nobody else does, and that gains you a lot of points. But here, when there are so few drivers that aren't in the playoffs, it makes it that much harder to scratch and claw your way out of that hole. And obviously, I mean, we could fill the top 4 with those non-playoff drivers, but someone's got to finish last. And as of right now, obviously, for the likes of Carl Lingle, Bud Steele, Bob Fitzgerald, they're going to need plenty of help to get back into this one, or they're going to have to settle for, finishing outside the top 10 there, which normally would be something to definitely be celebrated. The top 15 in almost any league, and obviously on Sunday nights, top 15 can be a really, really great run, but when you have this, low of a car count on Thursday nights that we have here, it is so much more difficult to make a rebound when you have made incidents or made mistakes.
Yeah, you nailed it, Boom. It is. We see this starting to pick up as these guys say, nope, coming right down pit road. And I think this is a smart move here by this group, coming in early. A little bit of a hiccup right there. But so what they've done, I think, is they're going to cut this in half. We've been getting about 14. They come in with 24 to go. So I think they're going to do this a little bit, maybe 12 at a time here, come with 12 to go, and then maybe just a little bit more of a shorter stop maybe.
Yeah, I think it also helps, the longer you go, the more fuel you need. The less laps you go at the end, the less fuel you need. But it helps them kind of break it up a little bit more. Obviously, this Roswell Motorsports pack may have an opportunity to hang out a few more laps, which we did see on the last pit cycle by 2 or 3 laps. So we'll see if they continue to do that. They're not going to be able to stretch one less pit stop out of it, but their strategy with going longer could potentially bode well if there were caution, and helps them put less fuel in for that final pit stop. Because again, the less distance you have to go at the end, the least amount of fuel you have to put in the car, and those seconds are so precious on pit road there, which, a second on pit road is not a lot of time, but it adds up to so much track position. And so definitely something to keep an eye on. So top 4 right now are in the lead lap. Gabe Butler, Everett Lane, Dean Wilkinson, they're going to come out with Charles Johnson and the 411 of Tom Dixon, and they're trying to ride side by side here. As you see, the 9's going to jump to the outside, the 411 is too, and then the 55 is actually going to jump through and follow those two teammates ahead of, trying to get ahead of Gabe Butler and them. So the 9 is now working with his teammate to try and get some momentum on the outside, and for now they're going to have to settle back down and just push and try to maintain as much pace as they can, as we'll see the 6 ahead of the 48, and that puts the 6 only 1 lap down, 2 laps down if he were behind the leader. Obviously some help from the teammate of Ryan Decker to keep him ahead of him and push, and 21 laps to go. 2 more pit stops for these guys, this group here, and 1 more pit stop for the group of Gabe Butler, Everett Lane, and Dean Wilkinson.
Yeah, I really think this group right here was trying to stretch it far enough where maybe they can sneak away with only putting maybe a can or something in. The next time they come to pit is a big checkup. Oh, hang on to it,
Nick.
Oh,
the 28! Big contact.
Yeah, I don't know who. Maybe that's Ambrose. Good avoidance back there, and definitely going to have to get back on the horse and nail this pit stop and not make any more mistakes if Nick wants any hope of trying to maybe stay with this group. Just came down with him.
Yeah, Ryan Decker, Jack Walls are in their pit stalls. So is Jim Brooks. That's going to be a detriment for sure for the 28. The 6 rolls on, and you see the 51 already coming off a pit road. So is the 48. So definitely going to be. I mean, he's going to miss the rest of this pack here. That 28 is so tough for him, and that's going to be something that could be a detriment. We're going to keep rolling down on the speedway, though. The 88 of Gabe Butler still our leader. Again, he's only got 1 more pit stop as everybody in the field, except for, I believe, Carl Lingle and maybe Bob Fitzgerald. Those 2 should have to make 2 more pit stops. Everybody else is pretty much locked into 1, and we are 20 laps to go. Now the front of this pack looks a little bit smaller, but we should have what looks like probably about 6 cars in the lead pack, a gaggle of lap cars spread throughout, and Ryan Decker, Jim Brooks in the lead here at the moment, and that 88 is probably going to be coming in just a second here to the outside. A huge run of momentum, but the good news is that everybody in this top 6 here is well secured into the front pack, as that makes such a huge difference here, and we'll see if that number dwindles any further with 1 more pit stop looming here before the end of this race.
Yeah, we got some guys making some moves here. We're starting to see, guys hop right in, not hesitating, doing that's what the driver said they like, aggressive. You're gonna drop down, come down and get this spot, and it keeps it less chaotic that way and less armed for danger here. But the Swiss Army knife in this whole mess right now is this 9 truck. If we stay green, this is the guy to keep your eye on. He's still gonna battle hard, but he's got his teammate 2 trucks behind him. They've kind of split up this boot knocker group.
Yeah, and we've only got 2 Team Boot Knocker drivers ahead of them. The 9 and the 55 easily could work well together here, obviously as teammates, to try and get ahead of them. This pack has so we've got 2 Team Boot Knockers, Gabe and Everett. Then we got Dean Wilkinson for TB Motorsports, and then we've got 3 of the Roswell Motorsports, Ryan Decker, Jim Brooks, and Jack Walls. So everybody pretty much represented with a teammate. Obviously the 55 having the 9 there to help him as well. So the 411 there in the mix, and he's obviously just one of the lap cars that's able to hold on to this lead pack. But these are the guys that are going to be battling it out here. 18 laps to go. The fuel window is probably going to open in about 4, maybe 5 laps. So we'll see if anybody tries to stretch it out. Obviously, some of the guys in the Roswell camp are going to have a couple extra laps, actually pitting 3 laps later than Gabe Butler, Everett Lane, and Dean Wilkinson. But we knew that Gabe Butler, Everett Lane, Dean Wilkinson, again, those 3 were trying to just make about pit stops every 12 laps or so for the last 36 laps and split it up a little more evenly than the Roswell Motorsports drivers, who are going to try and put the least amount of fuel in for that final pit stop.
Yeah, and I think these other guys got Team Boot Knocker right where they want. As we see on the timing and scoring, Justin Davis and Eric Laurie, they're 28 seconds back. So what that means is that the 88 and the 24 is leading the pack. So if I'm the guys behind them, I let them show their hand first. They got 2 trucks. That's all they got. As we've seen, 2 trucks can't make it around here. So I'm so shocked to just still seeing the 88 sit out front, and maybe they're just comfortable that they can get it done. But man, it's really going to be tough with this last pit stop, and they're leading. So you show everybody else that we've seen the other guys behind them go extra laps. And be able to stretch it just a little bit further. And if you got to come by 2 trucks and everybody else is in a group, it's going to be really tough for these guys.
Indeed, and while we wait that out to see what that pit strategy looks like, we've got another opportunity for some green flag action and some side-by-side. This time we're going to hear from Ranger Creative Concepts. Frank Ranger and the whole group there at RCC put together the trophies for the league and plenty of other really cool creations. So without further ado, let's hear from Ranger Creative Customs, or Custom Creatives.
I feel like I'm afraid to say how I feel, to know I let you down. 'Cause late nights turn to days, don't wanna let you down. With each breath we give away, it'll never be the same. I'm chasing somebody who won't ever ease the pain, but I don't want half of your heart. You can have it back if it's only half of your heart. If it's only half of your heart. I feel like I'm afraid of the only things I can't change.
All right, so it's Ranger Creative Concepts, and that's Frank and Mindy Ranger. And obviously they've got the link to the Facebook group, they've got the phone number in there. So all the cool products that you see, all the different graphic items that you can buy through Ranger Creative Concepts. Obviously they do, like we said, the trophies for the series here. And they do an absolute great job. Obviously Frank, one of our own, one of the drivers here in the series, and in Area 51 in the past. And it's exciting to see what they're putting together. And obviously a big, huge shout out to all the hard work they put in and all the gifts that they give for the league, and a great way to celebrate all of our champions, of which obviously we will be crowning 3 more, well actually 2 more here pretty soon, this about 4-week stretch here, even closer, even sooner I guess for the Tuesday series. So yeah, 3 champions here about in the next month or so, as Tuesday Night's IndyCar Series wraps up their season that's gone on from late 2024. Then we've obviously got the first season of 2025 here on Thursday nights, and looking forward to this battle here. You see Gabe Butler having a really solid night tonight. Is he going to be able to capitalize and try to take home a victory? His first could be in the playoffs here tonight. Obviously there's a couple lap cars in the mix that are in between them, but the next playoff driver goes back to Dean Wilkinson. He's 5th in line, but 3rd place in the running order. And then Ryan Decker, Jim Brooks, and Jack Walls all have an opportunity here at the back of this lead pack. They do have the 6 of Bud Steele, so they do have 4 trucks and a lot more power to try and make a move. And we'll see. We do have to get through again that last round of pit stops before we get to that, as a yellow flag is out on the speedway.
Oh, that just changes everything. And I think that 88 and that 24 just breathed a sigh of relief with this caution. Somebody... Oof. Let's see here.
Yeah, so we'll see. It looks like Nick Wing and Carl Lingle involved, and they're coming through. Looks like turns 1 and 2. And yeah, we'll just see if we can understand what happened here.
I think they're gonna hit this bump coming out of 3.
Yes.
At the same thing we seen earlier, maybe with Bob Fitzgerald here. It looks like It's either coming out of
Oh,
four.
there it
Maybe.
is. Yep. Yeah, there's the bump there, and the 04 gets some bumper into the back of the 28. He's going to go up and around in a wild ride for Nick Wing here. Keeps it almost right side up on his side, and yeah, definitely thankful to be in the virtual world as he's going to go all the way over there finally. But yeah, the 30 of Carl Lingle, then, I mean, oh my God, Everest Kniebel is also upside down after that. So yeah, let's take it back and see if we can see from the perspective. So you see the 28 already going around, and we'll see if we can understand what happened with the 30 here. Oh, just clipped by a teammate. Unfortunately, Carl could not control the spin in the 04 and the 30. You see that air get underneath those trucks, and they do kind of their, spinning pirouettes on the back straightaway together, all three of them here. So that's going to be a big yellow to change a lot of things here. Obviously, all these guys were further back in the pack off of the leaders, but speaking of the leaders, Gabe Butler, he's going to be leading them down to pit road here, and as you mentioned, Brandon, that's going to change absolutely everything.
Oh my goodness, everything I was just hyped up for about. I was going to see how these guys were going to attack Team Bootnaka. I had the perfect speech lined up, and then bow, wrench. It always happens. That's why you never plan anything in Area 51, because you can't plan anything. But I bet Nick Wing was probably, mad there that he got turned around, unexpectedly, but a blessing in disguise. I think they were about 20 seconds off this group. So, unfortunate that they got in a wreck, but he's going to be able to catch up and get a fast repair, and he's going to have a chance at this thing.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, he was on the lead lap. Obviously, working with some of the Blind Squirrel Racing guys, they were both a couple laps down. Ambrose 1 lap and Carl 2. So for sure disappointing, but honestly, in a way, it makes him burn his fast repair most likely. But Nick Wing is, away and clear with looks like a fresh race truck and on the lead lap still. So someone else, Charles Johnson, he's going to be coming down pit road this time. He is your lucky dog recipient. So that helps the 9 get back up into this race and try to see what he can do to salvage his night. And after the spin coming onto pit road during one of the green flag pit cycles. So first caution of the night gives us an opportunity for our first yellow flag commercial. And we'll see. What are we thinking here? Obviously, we talked to we saw Ranger Custom and then Sensi. Let's do let's hear from our sponsor Whiplash SimCams. They are obviously the sponsor of all the camera reviews that you see all night long. So we are gonna throw it to them, and we will be right back. So that is going to put 10 cars, or trucks I should say, on the lead lap. Lights are off on the pace truck, and we should be going green this time by. So it's going to be the 88 with his teammate to his outside, then Jack Walls, Ryan Decker, Jim Brooks, and the 411 is a lap car, but he is in the mix there. So 411 is actually going to be the first car 1 lap down, and the only car that is 1 lap down. So you're going to go back to Justin Davis, Eric Laurie. Those two guys are names that fell out of the lead pack. Not enough to go a lap down, but lost the draft at some point, and they are happy to be back in this mix, as so is the 28 of Nick Wing. Obviously, the yellow, directly affecting him and having to take that fast repair, but like we said, a blessing in disguise potentially, as he is now caught back up to our leaders, and we're going to have an 8-lap shootout here to the end. The 88 of Gabe Butler, your control car, green flag, back out on the speedway.
Yeah, good run there by that bottom lane. The top lane had a little bit of a checkup. You know those two guys behind him, teammates, front row teammates, second row teammates. They were not going to let up off of those guys. They were going to try as hard as they could. I think to not let the other flip in, let the 24 get in front of the 88 or the 88 get where the 24 can slide in behind him though. So very good aggressive push in there by that second row, making sure these guys ain't together just yet.
Yeah, Roswell Motorsports second car in the inside and outside lanes, third car in the inside as well. And we've got someone going 3 wide there. Looks like that's actually Bud Steele trying to steal a lap back here for him tonight as he's lonesome there in that outside lane in the 88. He's going to get hooked up with that 24. Now they're working on the outside lane together. And, ooh, a little bit of a shake and bake and sliding around all over the place and jockeying for position down the front straightaway. But it's going to be Gabe Butler leading this lap. And now he has one teammate behind him. He's got the Roswell Motorsports 48 of Ryan Decker and then a teammate behind that. So there's quite a few Team Bootnakas in that outside lane that are trying to do what they can as now Justin Davis moves third car in the inside lane to Roswell Motorsports in the inside lane still Jack Walls and Jim Brooks after the restart.
Yeah, I like that move by Bud Steele. He knows we got 7 to go. Things are going to start to pick up and we're not out of the woods yet for another caution. So if he can get back up there and get himself to 1 lap down and then the chaos happens behind him, that most likely would give him the lucky dog, I think. I don't know if that's exactly how that works. I don't know if you can double dip like that. But as we see, we got one guy coming down pit road here.
Yeah, unscheduled stop, we would assume, for Tom Dixon here, and unfortunate for that 411 who's had a bit of a tough night so far, but we stay green, 6 laps to go. The 88, the 24 in the middle lane, the 83, the 51 in the bottom, and a couple cars, stragglers in that outside lane. The 9 of Charles Johnson's going to try and duck down, potentially behind the 071. He does there. And trying to generate a run to that outside, but right now that second lane is where the momentum is as the 88 surges ahead down the back straightaway.
Yeah, the things are really starting to ramp up here. Is man, I don't want to do the curse, but the second truck inside line, man, here lately he's really turned it on, made sure he got himself here into the playoffs, and really starting to put some races together here late. So very, very glad to see the league-sponsored truck up front here.
Yeah, the 83 and the 51 still working together after the restart. The 80 and the 24 breaking up just a little bit in that outside lane as the inside's going to surge ahead. Curious to see if the 83 or the 51 jump to the high lane to try and control both aspects of the front of this pack, and they're not going to. The 88's going to have a good run down the back straightaway. Probably not enough to clear into the lead to get down to the bottom, but they seem to be preferring that outside lane anyway, as there's a little bit more momentum, a little bit more cars or trucks up there, as we're going to be 4 to go as we come down the front straightaway this time.
Yeah, these guys really got to be watching these gauges. This is a big move somebody takes there to get to the inside lane. You don't want to blow up a lead in this pack. You can tear up a lot of guys' nights, and so definitely got to be eyes on here. But it's so interesting to see that we got the 2 teammates on the outside there together, and then 2 teammates on the bottom. But then they flip once you get to the third row. So it's how much is, the third truck in line could play a difference here by not pushing, that line. So I think we're going to see a lot of things start to peak out, and maybe that's when somebody could sneak something in the third lane.
Yeah, that's interesting to point out. You've got that third truck there who's the opposite of the teammates ahead of them, and it's really going to be whoever can get organized the best. As of right now, the inside lane is doing a little bit better job through turns 3 and 4. Jack Walls should be able to get this lap led unless the 88 has enough momentum in that second lane. But here's where you're trying to understand, where do the runs need to come from? When do you need to time it? Where do you make the moves? Who's going to go with you? And are you going to have enough to be at the front of the field as you cross the stripe on that last lap? 3 to go this time by.
Yeah, I think you once again you nailed it. And what's so crazy is normally you see it come from about the third or the fourth truck in line, but it's if you're the 48, do you step out and give the chance for the 071 to get behind the 24 and give 3 teammates in a row where the 10 can't step out at all? I mean, so the run, I think there's so many. It's going to be so interesting to see how this race plays out and what the drivers decide to do, because there's so many factors that I don't think any of these guys could have ever planned.
Yeah, things are definitely shaping up to be a solid finish here, and there is a lot going on. The 88 continuing to lead that outside lane with teammate Everett Lane, and then the 83 of Jack Walls with Jim Brooks in the inside lane. Nobody has really moved too much beyond that after the restart here. The 9 of Charles Johnson and the 28 of Nick Wing, as well as the 55 of Dean Wilkinson, now trying to make that third lane work, but it is a big momentum shift for the middle lane as they come down the back straightaway, and the 24 tries to think about coming down, gets a little bit of a wiggle over the bump there, and he's going to give a big push to the 88 in the middle of the corner, which is definitely a dangerous move, but they're going to come down the front straightaway. White flag is out on the speedway.
Yeah, I'm so shocked. The 88 and the 24, I don't, maybe just not one to make that risk of coming late, but they had the inside lane clear. I was so shocked not to see them both jump down and really control that lane. As now we see the 48, he's going to give up that outside lane, jump in front of Justin Davis, jump behind the 51, and give Roswell 3 cars on that bottom lane. As we see Eric Lorry's going to make a run there on the back. I don't see him leaving the tail of the 24. Do you, Boom?
No, I think those guys are going to stay locked, and as well as the 3 in the inside lane there pushing as hard as they can. The 83 has the momentum at the moment coming through turns 3 and 4. Is it going to be enough on the inside? Is the outside going to be able to make a charge? The bobble from the inside lane is going to give momentum to the outside, and they wreck behind. We're coming down to the stripe. The 83 has it. Does he have enough momentum? Does he have the push? He's got the teammates behind him. Jim Brooks is going to push Jack Walls to the win for the first race of the playoffs.
Wow, man, what a finish. These guys. Wow, just to maneuver those guys to make those moves there at the end. Man, what a race. What a finish. First playoff race, you can't ask for a better finish than that.
Absolutely. To have a 9-lap shootout like that was such a treat and a lot of fun for us to watch here. That was an incredible race finish and a great way to kick off these playoffs. Some very, very well-deserved solid night for really both the Bootnakas and the Roswell Motorsports guys, 3 of each in the top 6. So a big night there, and Jack Walls hasn't won since the first race of the season, but he's going to join his teammate Bud Steele as the second 2-time winner here, and it comes at no better time as we get into the playoffs. And one of the 12 competing for the championship, he's going to get a win here tonight. We'll bring up the rest of your race results here and go through them real quick, but obviously we saw that great battle at the end. Jack Walls, Jim Brooks for Roswell Motorsports, Gabe Butler there for Team Bootnaka, obviously Ryan Decker, another Roswell, Everett Lane, Eric Laurie there, Team Bootnaka, and that story of that top 6 is pretty well split between the 2 teams who executed very well here tonight. Dean Wilkinson able to recover a little bit there as he's going to come home in the 7th position. Charles Johnson, an even better recovery for him in the 9. Nick Wing will finish there in the about 11 seconds back there in 9th place. We saw Justin Davis go for a wild ride on the last lap, unable to try and battle it back to the line. He's going to be the last car on that lead lap. Then we saw Bud Steele trouble for him, having to pit a couple extra times coming down. 2 laps down, Carl Lingle and Ambrose Kniebel, Blind Squirrel Racing teammates, are going to finish 2 laps down, as well as Tom Dixon. And then Bob Fitzgerald, and we saw James Moen retire early from this race. So that is your finishing order, and I believe we've got a few interviews to get to here, starting with, I believe, the 88 of Gabe Butler. And yeah, Gabe, we saw some really great racing from, I mean, really for most of the race, some solid green flag action, but with 9 laps to go, obviously you got Everett Lane behind you, and you guys kind of just stayed there in that outside lane. You know, take us through how you ended up finishing 3rd there tonight.
I finished 3rd because of Everett and Eric and Justin. So, you know, we had a little bit of a wobble there coming out of 4, and Eric kind of was just having trouble getting back onto Everett, and when he did, we started moving forward again, but it was just about 300 feet too late. But still, I mean, a P3 It's not bad for the first race of the playoffs, so we'll take it. And I think we all had a good night with our pit stops and so forth, and pretty good race.
Yeah, another top three here for you, Gabe. And I got a question because I gotta know, and you don't have to tell me if you don't because it's strategy. But you and the 24, you guys before that caution came out, there was only the two of you with them guys behind you. What was your plan if it stayed green there?
We were going to pit on a certain lap anyway, whether they came with us or not. So in other words, we were going to try and short pit the field, and even if it was two of us, so be it. I think we would have caught the pack if they came in after us. I think we would have been able to keep enough pace. So just unfortunately, it didn't come to that. We were kind of hoping it would have stayed green because sometimes those pit stops can really split the field up, but it's just the way it worked out, and so we all had to pit anyway.
Yeah, definitely seemed like that kind of was a good opportunity to, kind of come right about when you guys were going to pit for that last pit stop anyway. But take us through. I mean, obviously, you were kind of in position for most of the night, really staying up there through all the green flag pit cycles, you and a couple of your teammates, Everett Lane as well. And, take us through some of the execution that it takes to stay in it with what is, a fairly short fuel run and so many pit stops here under green flag tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you just really have to pay attention, especially, coming across that transition off the track. You definitely don't want to have your foot in the brakes or it's just going to send you flying. So, I told the guys before that just to remind them if they didn't know it anyway, just, when you pit and you're coming down off the track onto pit road, don't hit the brakes till you actually get off that transition. And, don't speed. And I think everybody tonight, all the drivers for the most part, seemed like they did really good pit stops.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to have that many cars still in, one pack at the end of a lot of green flag pit cycle is pretty solid. So, obviously, you've been in this position before, a solid top three for you tonight. You're competing for yet another championship here. You've got a few of them under your belt, few wins there in that category. But want to hear from you. I know we ask you this question a lot because you're in this position a lot. But what are kind of your keys over these next 3 weeks to try and secure yet another championship for yourself?
I just try and stay consistent. Try and get really good finishes. Top three if at all possible. And then just try and survive the race. Otherwise, if you can't get a top three, at least a top five. But if you can stay relatively consistent, you should be in a good position going into the last race.
Does it make it any more concerning that there is a little bit of a shorter field here on Thursday nights, and it is so much more difficult to earn those spots back if you are in a hole at any point or you find yourself in a hole?
Yeah, it definitely makes it more difficult. I mean, the more drivers are in the field, the bigger the point spread, basically. So when you have a relatively small field like that, and then you do get behind the eight ball, it is quite a bit more difficult to make that back up. But then again, you don't want to be dependent on other drivers, competitors. You just want to do your own thing and make your own luck. And like I said, the Everett, Justin, and Eric tonight were fantastic help. And Justin, I'd like to congratulate him too. I mean, he's first year in the league and he makes the playoffs his first try. So, I mean, fair play to him.
Absolutely. Well, Gabe, we won't keep you too much longer, but want to roll that red carpet out there for you. Any thanks or shout outs you'd like to give for that third place finish here tonight?
Yeah, I mean, all the guys in Boot Knocker, we had quite a bit of fun tonight. It was an enjoyable race. Of course, Area 51 and all the admins for putting this on. Of course, you guys up in the booth there, Brandon and Boomer, you guys do a great job as usual. Look forward to watching this one again.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it, and best of luck to you in your chase for yet another championship here this season, Gabe.
All right, gentlemen, and congratulations to Jack on the win.
Good deal. Thank you, buddy, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys.
All right, we've got the next truck who never left the rear bumper of that 83, Jim Brooks, staying strong, pushing the 83 pretty much all the way from the restart there with about 8 laps to go. Jim, take us through how much excitement there might have been in the truck there for those final 8 laps on that restart.
Yeah, that was pretty good. It was back and forth. Gabe would catch on the outside, then we would go on the inside, and back and forth. And then when Ryan snuck down behind me and started pushing me like crazy, and I was pushing Jack. That was all we needed to get him clear. Too bad he couldn't get third. That would have been great.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, would that be probably your winning move of the race for the team there? Was when that 48 was able to get down and push the back of you to get Jack propelled even further forward?
Definitely, yeah, that was what made it happen.
Hey Jim, a good finish tonight, good second place finish, and you really turned it on here. You know these last couple weeks really got the truck running good, and how does this motivate not only you but the team as we know we go next to a very narrow Daytona.
Yeah, we'll be good to go. It's just a matter of staying together like we did. I know Bud had some trouble that made it kind of suck because we didn't have him with us, but we did pretty well, and I think the plan is to more of the same.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've highlighted it for so long here at Area 51, but we mentioned at the top of the show, you guys at Roswell Motorsports have really made an impact this year and have really shown what it takes to be that next level caliber of teamwork and teammates. And I mean, obviously, there's probably some thanks you want to give at the end there for that, but it seems like you guys are really able to work really well together and try to be on top of the strategy and have put your guys' self in so many good situations to win quite a few races here for the team this season.
Yeah, taking on the boot knockers is never easy, so we've finally kind of got our act together a little bit more, and it's been consistent, which is really helpful, and we've been working well together. The big thing is getting in the pits and getting off the pits together without being spread out. That's critical. I mean, we had a little bit of a fuel saving thing going there at the end until that caution came out because we only needed 5.1 gallons, and boot knockers were going to need more than that, so we probably had it just the whole team in a row if it wasn't for that caution.
5.1, maybe a very fitting number here for your number and for Area 51 here, but yeah, definitely a good opportunity for you guys tonight and a hard-fought victory. I mean, obviously Ryan's still in the top four. That's a pretty solid night for you guys. So without further ado, rolling out that red carpet for you. Any thanks or shout-outs you'd like to give for that second place finish here tonight?
I just congratulate Jack on the win. I was glad I could help him a little bit, and thank Ryan for helping us too, and the rest of the team. We did well, and thank you guys for the coverage. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I won't let you go. I did forget one thing. Obviously, we've been asking all of our playoff contenders as well. Obviously, a really solid start to the playoffs for you here tonight, but your final thoughts on what's going to be kind of the biggest keys to, trying to compete for this championship and try to win it here at the end of this 4-week playoff.
Gonna need to be consistent because we got such a diversity of tracks. You can't do the same thing everywhere. So Atlanta's going to be a challenge, and then Daytona, like you said, is a little narrower. So it's just consistency is what it's going to take to do it.
Good deal. Well, we'll hope to watch you do that here over the next couple weeks, Jim, and best of luck to you in your chase for a championship here.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Alrighty, we've got one more interview, and that's going to be the 83 of Jack Walls, and he is joining us here in the booth. Jack, a solid restart for you guys. Obviously, you had the teammate help with Jim on your rear bumper pretty much the entire time after that final restart, and then the 48 coming down later. A really great opportunity. Obviously, you haven't won since the first week of the season, but you are only the second multiple race winner this season. The only other one is obviously your teammate Bud Steele, but it seems like you guys at Roswell Motorsports are kind of clicking on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, we're really trying to work as a team, work out the gas calculations, the fuel savings, pitch strategy, and it's been working out for us. Good to see Jim up there in second, and I was hoping Ryan would get third, but it was close between him and Gabe.
Yeah, Jack. Another good win and team finish. As we talked about with just Jim in the interview before. what was your guys' plan? As I believe you guys started on the outside, in the second row. What was your guys' plan is to really approach that with that final restart there?
Well, I was on the inside. I was third on that restart, and then Jim was behind me. So we were going to stay there to see if there was an opening to get up with Ryan, but then Gabe pulled up, so that put me to the front of the pack there, and it was touch and go. I'd be ahead, and Gabe be ahead, and I'd be ahead, and I didn't know where it was going to go, but I was just going to stay low with Jim behind me, and of course, luckily Ryan got in behind Jim, and that's all she wrote.
Definitely. I
Yeah,
mean,
Yeah, no, I was just gonna ask if we seen it up here, and I know it's a lot different from being in the truck, but it looked like the 88 and the 24 was clear at one point. I don't know what it looked like from your view, but were you shocked that they didn't make that move going into turn 3 to come down and stayed in the middle lane?
Yeah, there was one point I remember it being close. I didn't get a clear on my outside, so maybe it was just too close for them to come down to chance it, and with the line of us coming. So if they had done that, if we would have moved up, then the three of us would have been together. And the three teammates, we probably would have been together, and then maybe we still would have come in first, second, and third there.
yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of situations, but for the most part, you guys staying disciplined with the teamwork really seemed to be what was probably one of the the biggest keys for you guys tonight. So, speaking of keys, we want to know kind of what your keys are for this championship battle here. Obviously, you've got a really solid start to the playoffs. What is probably one of the biggest keys that you can think of that would help you guys try and bring a championship home for Roswell Motorsports?
Well, the key is, as you can see, pitting, especially here, is very difficult. I think that's the first key with these races going green for so long. It seems like you can win or lose it on pit road, and I think that's the number one key. The second key of that is coming out together as a team off of pit road, so that you don't get left behind or anything like that. And staying out of trouble, not having to use that fast repair is always nice, and having it in your back pocket at the late in the end, that's always good to have. And just try and be there up front when it gets close. We were going to pit on lap 65. I think we had 2 or 3 laps to the good over everybody else. So we were going to take less fuel on lap 65, but that caution on lap 64 really killed us. We were sad to see that come out.
Yeah, I know Jim kind of touched on that for a moment there. Seemed like you guys were in a pretty good position to stretch the fuel a little bit more and maybe even leapfrog a little bit in the pack. So, but nonetheless, I mean, still a really great first round of the playoffs here for you tonight. Obviously, some good teammates up in the top 5 with you as well. And we'll roll out that red carpet for you now and give you any opportunities for thanks or shout outs for that win here to start the playoffs.
Well, first of all, we want to thank Bud Steele for getting in front of us there to let us save some fuel there for a few laps. That was instrumental to us winning. And then, of course, Nicholas Wing, he's given us our fuel calculations, how far we can go when we should pit. So he's like driver, crew chief for us. So I really appreciate that. And of course, Jim Brooks and Ryan Decker for help pushing me to the win. And of course, our sponsors, 4D Racewear, Sim Race Cams, and the Ranger Creative Concepts. Want to thank our sponsors for that. And you guys, Green White Checker TV, wouldn't be as great as it is without you guys.
Well, we appreciate that, Jack, and look to see you continue to perform in the playoffs here and hopefully talking to you again real soon.
10-4. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you. Alrighty, Brandon. So that'll do it for the action here tonight. doesn't mean that the action is over here on Green White Checkered TV. Obviously, we've got plenty of racing left. We still have 3 more weeks here to get to the end of the season. We'll have Daytona next week. May 1st will be Atlanta Motor Speedway, and then the season finale on May 8th at Talladega Superspeedway. 3 great races, 3 weeks you will not want to miss here on Thursday nights in the Truck Series. Switching over to Sundays, obviously we've got iRacing Superspeedway yet to run this Sunday on April 20th there. Daytona will be the 27th, and then Atlanta May 4th, Talladega May 11th. And they've got 4 weeks to crown a champion there on Sunday nights as well in the Gen 4 series. So plenty of action to keep an eye on there. And we'll check back in. I think we're close to the end of the season for the IndyCar series. We went to Kentucky this past week, and in 2 weeks at Auto Club will actually be our last race of the 2024/2025 season, starting all the way back in November. So Auto Club in 2 weeks on Tuesday, again April 29th. You will not want to miss that season finale as we close out yet another great season there in the Area 51 Dark Horse and IndyCar series. So for all of our partners here, obviously we've got a lot of things to be thankful for. And Brandon, before I let you go, want to give a quick couple words for your recap for what you thought of tonight's race.
It did what iRacing did when we got a little pack. It drug us along at the beginning, gave us a little bit of excitement, and then when it came down to those last 10, these drivers put on one heck of a show like they always do, and just makes me that more excited to get to Daytona.
Absolutely. That was an incredible last set of 8 laps after the restart. And I mean, obviously, sometimes cautions breed cautions, but we just saw, a late race caution that kind of leveled the playing field for, at least for fuel strategy. We saw that turn into an incredible run to the finish between 2 teams trying to battle it out, duke it out, and Roswell Motorsports comes out on top with that 83 Jack Walls on your screen. So with that, I think that's pretty much everything. Obviously, I guess quick shout out to Whiplash SimCams for all the cameras you see. Obviously, 4D Racewear, big part, especially of the IndyCar series, but all your sim racing apparel needs there. Sensi's on board with us. Ranger Creative Customs, thanks to Frank and Mindy Ranger for being on board and sponsoring the trophies and creating the trophies for the league, and all that they do in the graphic art world, and all the cool custom designs that you can make with that group. So thanks to them. Obviously, thanks to the league. Obviously, if it weren't for the drivers in the league, we wouldn't be able to do this. And it's a lot of fun for myself, Boomer Logan, and for Brandon Briggs here in the booth. A good time for both of us to have fun, enjoy, and obviously also shout out to Guy Al Brooks, our boss, I guess, here at Green White Checker TV. Lots of fun to be had here, and lots of great racing in store as we close out these seasons here, the first of 2025. So that's enough blabbering for me. Thank you all. Hope you all have a good night, and we will see you in the next one.